Hello, and welcome back to Black River Paranormal Investigations. I'm your host, Rich Hardway. So, like I said in previous video, my 70s and 80s, I had a good bit of action in the paranormal world, and by the time I get to the 90s, for the most part, 92, 3, 4, 5, 6, not much seems to happen. There's nothing in my mind that sticks out to really talk about. I will say that from like 97, 98 through the 2000s, picked up a lot. But today I want to talk about dreams when somebody passes away. A contact dream, if you will. So for me, I first encountered this. I had separated from my wife and was going through a divorce, which ran its course, during which time my father-in-law, who I was very close to, had gotten sick. And no one even told me about it in the family. My divorce was kind of heated. She didn't like me, I didn't like her, and it was just in an ugly place. But divorce happened, you move on with your life. And I was starting to date somebody new. When my father-in-law wound up in a nursing home, and he was dying, a friend of my wife's called me, and she said, "Why have you not went to go see Sam? He's screaming out for you almost nonstop." And I told her at the time, I was like, well, A, I didn't know he was, in this condition. And B, I don't know where he's at. No one's told me any details or anything like that. And so she told me she couldn't tell me how to get there, but she could drive there from her house. So if I was to come over on Saturday morning to her house, she would take me there and I'd get to see him. So that was the plan. And I memory serves me right, we developed that plan on like a Wednesday. So he doesn't make it to Saturday. Thursday or Friday, he passes away. The night he passed away, I didn't even know he'd passed away yet. But the night he passed away, I was staying over the night at this lady that I started dating's place. When that night he came to me while I was sleeping. First he come to me, and I'm laying in bed, and he asked me if I trusted him. And I said yes. And the next thing I know, we're zipping along, and we land on the foot base of a hill, of a mountain. And we began walking up the mountain. And while we're walking, we're talking, we're reviewing my time with her, my 10 years of being married to his daughter. We're talking about my daughter, who at this time is like 7, maybe 8, depending on, I'm trying to think when this dream happened. I believe she's 7. She turns 8 shortly afterwards. The one thing I noticed was the more we walked up the mountain, the younger he was getting. I had never known him not to be white-headed, white-bearded, or mustached, which he didn't. I don't think he really appeared maybe once or twice, but usually a mustache, but it was always white. And as we're walking along, his red hair starts coming back in, and he's getting younger. He goes from this almost 70-year-old to this like middle 30-year-old, like 35, 36, 38-year-old. And, he talked about, he knew my daughter didn't do me right, and he talked about the difficulties of being in a marriage, and he wished it could have worked out. Then he switched his gears and talked about my daughter, that she's the most important part of this divorce, is making sure that she's taken care of, her needs are met, and she's emotionally getting what she needs because it's a rough time for her. So we get to the end of our conversation. We're at the top of the hill, and he tells me goodbye, and I never see or dream about him again. Okay. In the morning, I get up and I tell this girl I started dating about this dream. I gave her everything I could remember about it, and I never told anybody else. That was it, just her. About 2 hours later, I find out that he passed away. And that kind of, to me, sealed the dream, that the dream was real. That he passed away and he come to see me. What I find most fascinating about this dream is, now remember, I never told anybody about it other than this girl I started dating. 2 years later, my grandmother from my mother's side passes away to cancer. And her mother came to her in a dream, and it was the exact same dream I basically had. She came to her while she was asleep in a dream, woke her up. They went for a walk. They were walking up a hill. Not sure what the significance of that hill is, but they were walking up a hill. The farther they walked up the hill having their conversation, the younger her mom got. To the point when she got to the top of the hill, my mom said she was about in her middle 30s. Pretty wild, right? So my mom tells me and the girl that I had been dating for the last few years about this dream. And this girl, who eventually winds up being my second wife, she's like, oh my God, that's the same dream you had. The similarity, the details is, just overwhelming that this the same dream. I've since talked to people and told them this story, and I've had a handful of people tell me when I was telling them this story about my dream and my mom's dream that they've had that same dream as well. Unfinished business. So with my father-in-law, I'd gone about 1.5 years without seeing him. Never really knew how ill he was or anything. I thought he was doing okay. So I feel like there was really unfinished business with us, and he needed to come talk to me. My mom, though, was a little different because my mom was taking care of my grandma, along with my second wife, who was 89 when she passed, and she had cancer, and so they were taking care of her. She was basically in hospice care, but she was at home. So it kind of throws a little wrench into my unfinished business. I mean, my grandma and my mom were there all day long together, but maybe maybe things just weren't said. I've also had a dream where my grandfather has come to see me a couple times. Nothing like that, though. I was at my mom's house one time, and he came in. He swooped down in, and it was like on a carriage pulled by a horse. And he basically was telling me that he was having such a great time, things were wonderful, and he'd see me soon, and out he goes. Another time, he popped in, and he wanted to get a picture of me and him together, and as soon as the picture was taken, he was gone. But it's always been a good, things are great, loving it up here type of thing. Then my dad passes. And when my dad passes, which was 2018, so I'm kind of cutting in a little bit, trying to do these by years that they happened in order. But when my dad passes away, I also get a couple dreams of him. And it was so atypical of my dad. So most of them have been with his living room full of his family. My mom, me, my daughter, my grandson, later my granddaughter. So he seems to always be like either sitting in his chair, just grinning, smiling, doesn't really say much. Or there's times I've caught him in the corner, like standing in the corner watching over all of us, just happy and smiling. I did have one dream though, and I think I've only had one since then it involved him, but I had one dream where he told me goodbye. He was up higher than me, like he was in the air a little bit or standing higher than me. And he was telling me goodbye and he was telling me to be good and that everything was okay. And then he disappeared. I had another dream of his brother who I never met. I've always felt like he's my spirit guide. His name is Dale. I had a dream about him one time when I lived in the house that he was living in at the time of his passing. We were in the woods. There was a log cabin, and he was wearing like the fishing style hat, and he was riding a 50s bicycle, like a 50s Schwinn or Murray, the big cruiser bikes that they had back then, all the chrome and big fenders and stuff. But he was riding it like he was on a BMX bicycle. And that's something he would have done from what I've heard. But he's like doing, wheelies and kickouts and jumping it over a creek and stuff, and basically just having a good time. And what I found interesting about that, the night I had that dream, my second wife also had that dream. We got up in the morning and we're sitting there having coffee. It was Sunday morning, and she's like, I had the damnedest dream last night. And I said, oh yeah? She said, yeah. She said, I was dreaming about your Uncle Dale. And then she said, we were out in the woods. Which I interrupted her and I said, was he wearing a fishing hat and riding a 50s style bicycle? And she said, yes. I have a lot more stories about Dale in the coming videos. Still have to hang on for that. But dreams, are they real? Are they spirits riding on the stardust? I don't know. I think they are. I could be wrong. Some people say it's, your subconscious running, or you've been thinking about something. Well, I can tell you, I never really gave two thoughts to Dale riding a bicycle in the woods wearing a fishing hat. But dreams take on their own world sometimes, right? If you've had any experiences like that, please leave your comments in the comment section. I'd love to get into a little dialogue with somebody. They're definitely fascinating. I read some books from Sylvia Browne. Well, actually, I read all her books. And she talked about dreams like that, about it's easier for a spirit to contact you while you're in a sleeping state. 3 o'clock in the morning seems to be a real good time. Some people call that the witching hour. 3 to 5, though, the twilight. If you've ever had any dreams like that, let me know. Till next time.